Let me take you a few years back, meaning 2200 years back in history, to get an overview. The year we are discussing is 170 BCE, when the Judea province is ruled by the house of Seleucus, which is the Seleucid dynasty, which is the strongest segment of the Hellenic Macedonian Empire. As you may recall, the vast empire of Alexander was divided after his death, 323 BCE, to his successor, who are called diadoques, in Greek diadoki. Originally there were 4 generals, but in reality there were dozens of kingdoms, and the area of Judea was in the middle, between the Seleucus dynasty in the north, seated in Syria, and between Ptolemaios dynasty from the south, sitting in Egypt. First it was ruled by Ptolemaios, but then it moved to be ruled by Seleucus, who was a stronger segment, and defeated Ptolemaios of the control of this area of the Levant. First, let's understand a little bit about the region and this area. And here I may have some shocking news to some of you, mostly the Israelis who reside in present-day Israel. Let us define that Israel is not exactly the center of the universe. Shocking news, I know, to some of the Israelis, but what can I do? But in those times, it was. Indeed, it was. What does it mean? It means that all this area of the Near East, first it was called Canaan, then the Levant, and then the Near East, all this area from the Nile River in Egypt all the way up north to the Taurus Mountains, around the junction of Syria and Turkey. It was a very strategic and important area. And why is that? Because before the advent of airplanes, then all the movement and commute was by land. And this area that we discuss, this area connects the 3 continents, Asia, Europe and Africa. And it connects between nations and commerce and people and empires. All roads passed through this area, later called the Levant. And even earlier, if you take the Homo sapiens that left Africa and migrated from Ethiopia up north, then they passed through that Levantine corridor. Animals pass there, birds still migrate on this route from Europe to Africa and return. And surely humans pass there in their route from here to there. Let us see in the map and how it looks. As you can see here, this is the old world. And this is the old world and the 3 continents. We have Europe, Asia and Africa. And the said area, Judean province, Canaan, is right there in the middle, in the conjunction between the 3 continents. It is an important place. So we can see in this map here that describes the old world, and there is the said area, it was called Canaan, then the Levant, then the Near East. But this is the conjunction between the 3 continents and the path, the land path from place to place. It is an important place. But there is a big but here. This Judean province was not exactly part of this important area. It was a settlement on hills and in deserts and away from the coast, and it did not rule the important routes like Via Maris, it's the route of the coast going north to south, and or the routes, the trade routes, east to west, south of by the Nabateans and north by the Phoenicians, or the King's Highway, which going on the top of the plateau of the Transjordan hills and mountains. And in those times, as well as earlier times, it did not have access to the sea or to a port. It didn't have any port, and that means also they didn't have any beach to go to, unless they had some access to the Dead Sea shores. It was a desert, hilly settlement in a confined space and surrounded by enemies all over. And it was some kind of a deserted and neglected province. And as a side note, also the land of Israel of today, without the development of the airplane, would have been actually the same, a deserted and neglected province state, as it is a state surrounded by enemies from all over. And apart from the sea, all traffic in and out is being efficiently carried only by airplanes. So you can imagine that land of today, the state of Israel, without the airplane, without the internet or the telephone or electricity. Yeah, it would be the same neglected and abandoned province. And you know that all these inventions were made by American inventors of the 20th century. So how do you say, God bless America? Now, let's see the map and how it looks. Yes, as you can see here, this is a physical map that describes the tribe of Judea. It was the tribe of Judea, became the kingdom of Judea, then became the province of Judea. You can see here it is on a hilly and desert area. It does not belong to the main routes. And even if you look at the division between the kingdoms, this is the southern kingdom, is the kingdom of Judea. It is away, it is confined. We will talk and discuss later on the division between the kingdoms and the history of this place. But what you remember now is that it is a confined space, a little bit abandoned. It rules mostly hilly and desert area. And later on we'll discuss what happened in this area. Now, a few introduction words to this chapter. This chapter, the area, it comes to describe the geopolitical situation and all what happened in this area till the time of Hashmonai. Indeed, my presentation is aimed and in purpose at Yhuda Maccabee. But whoever wants to understand the entire scope of this area and its nations must dig into the details, which are historical, geographical, topographical details, and whatever history we can learn from the Hebrew Bible, which is called the Old Testament. So we must go back in time and understand what happened in this area until the discussed period of Hashmonai. But this chapter may be a little long and tedious and tiring for some of you. So whoever wants to skip it, it is very possible, albeit not recommended, while remembering only the key events, which are: there were tribes, they went from tribes to a kingdom, the division of that kingdom to northern and southern kingdoms, the conquer and destruction of the northern kingdom by the Assyrian Empire. Then Babylonia takes over. They become a Babylonian province. They had a failed revolt and they were all exiled to Babylonia. Then Persia takes over. The Persians allowed the Jews to return to their homeland, and now they are a province of Persia. Then Alexander takes over, and Judea now is a province of the Hellenic Macedonian Empire and its successors. And that's about it. This is the essence. In the rest of this chapter, I'll bring the story of this creation of the Jewish nation in this area, in its essence, as it was described in the Hebrew Bible. But as I said, there is no need to dig into the biblical narrative. It is possible to take a snap photo of year 170 BC, when Judean province is under the Hellenic Seleucid Empire, and continue the story from there on.